Hello, you beautiful souls. How are you?
Good evening. How you doing?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Blended Lines podcast. I am Coach Cliff, and today we have our Blended Lines member, David Verin. I am saying that right? Verin?
That is correct.
I,
Yes.
I never asked you that. I've been calling you that for years, and I never asked you.
The way I explain it is it's just like you're saying the name Aaron with a V. So
That's it.
you
Okay. Well, if
definitely
I
man.
had said it incorrectly, would you have told me, or would you just let me call you the wrong name for years?
It just all depends on the day and time. So a lot of times I just say I know what they meant. So it just kind of
And
go.
because, dude, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I've had people like where I've called them the wrong name, and like instead of correcting me, they just let me call them the wrong name for years, and I'm like, why did you not tell me that?
Yeah.
It's weird. All right, we got one user right here. What up? It just says Facebook user, so we don't know who that is, but what up? Hey, I appreciate you all jumping on and checking this out. This is gonna be interesting, y'all. And look, this is not scripted or anything like that. David and I have known each other for a while. We attend the same church, and we've both been in the children's ministry and teen ministries together. And so I knew him prior to Blended Lines. And what brought on this discussion? So since the beginning of Blended Lines, and then I'll go into you, Dave. I'll hand it over to you, and then you can tell us about who you are and how did you make it to Blended Lines. But the reason that we're having this discussion today is because since the creation of Blended Lines, this topic has come up uh, several times within the group. And, mostly it's, why can Black people say the N word and white people can't? I actually had a discussion with a friend last year, and he wanted to know why was it that I could say it and he couldn't. Like he wanted to say it, after I tried to explain to him that, the way we use it can be uh in terms of endearment. Are you froze?
I know.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so it's just been ongoing and ongoing, and I get it, like especially non people of color or white people, uh, are really trying to wrap their head around, I can it's in rap music, it's it's in songs, it's on TV, and y'all hug each other and dap each other up and say, "What's up, Ian?" But if I say it, being a white person, then one or two things that happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's how this started, y'all. And David reached out and he was like, "Hey man, let's have a discussion about it." So it's gonna be me and him, two different takes on the word. We're gonna give our opinions on it. I would love for you guys to chime in. I'm really hoping a lot of y'all show up, man, because this is the time here to ask us questions about the N word. No, you can't say the N word. No, I'm just kidding. But this is the seriously, y'all. This is the time to ask anything you want about the N word. All right. Um, in my opinion, it's getting old, but it's never gonna go away. In my opinion, I don't think not the word. I just don't think that the whole battle between white people using and Black people using. I don't think that will ever die out. But enough with my talking. David, tell us who David Verin is
All right.
and how did
Can you
he
hear
end
me?
up in Blended Lines?
Well, hold on just a minute. Sorry, something
Yeah. No, you
happened.
good.
All right, there we go. I'm David Verin, and as Cliff already said, we know each other through church and through ministry. And so I'm a member of Blended Lines. I loved the vision that Cliff had just when it first came up because it was just when the whole 2020 epidemic. There was a pandemic, then there was an epidemic that happened
Right.
with racial relations.
It's
And
crazy.
just a long story short, we believe that we can either be a part of the problem or we can be part of the solution. And so Cliff just had a vision, and I think that it was amazing as far as being part of the solution. And of course, I feel very passionately about it as well. And
Mhm.
I think that we can have constructive dialogue and learn about each other in a safe place where we can ask certain things, because I think a lot of times the reason why um, dialogue doesn't happen is because on either side there's fear of what happens if I'm honest, but then I'm perceived to be a certain way, or what happens if I'm honest and here's what I really think, but then somebody gets mad at me. And what I always tell people, because I work with children, and so, but the same thing just applies with human nature is if someone asks you a question and they say that they're being honest, and you get mad and you just kind of go off on them, they still wonder the same thing. They just don't ask it anymore. and
They
so,
don't ask you exactly, bro.
and
Exactly.
And so getting mad does not, I believe, does not do anything productive for the issue. And so I think that just that's the reason why I'm very big on just dialogue. Also,
Mhm.
when I first kind of joined Blended Lines, well, I'm sorry, I got to do something with this,
No,
but
you fine.
when I first joined, I kind of shared how my personal experience was just being able to know how to interpret both sides, because I feel like most of the time, um, I think a lot of things isn't racism. I think a lot of things, again, now I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that
Mhm.
some things that no things are racist, but I think that a lot of things that we give our attention to
Mhm.
could be better used, or the attention could be better used trying to understand, or what did you mean when you said that, or what, or how did you, I heard this, but is that what you meant?
Right.
And most of the time when you do that, you'll realize that they'll say, well, no, that's not what I meant. I actually meant this. And you
Mhm.
kind of get those cultural blurred lines done,
Right.
taken care of. And then if you do that, then when the times where it really is racist, you'll have the energy to
Right.
really focus on that. And so
Exactly.
that's
See,
kind
we
of
on the
where I'm coming
same page with that, bro.
yeah,
I feel the exact same way, bro. It's all, and that, and I just got tired of seeing people just mad at each other, man. And here's the thing: it's really quite simple. All right, we as human beings make it complicated as hell for some reason.
right.
Um, but we are on this big ball, all right, existing together. All right. I don't understand why it's so difficult, even though we're all different, which I think is awesome. I think, I mean, everybody's different for a reason. There's not one unless it's a twin, there's not one identical person on this planet. That to me, that's powerful. All right.
Well, even the twins aren't identical because they have their own personalities and they have their
It,
own things that they like and
yep,
they don't like. And
yep.
so I just
And
think that
hey, you muted yourself by mistake. You muted yourself. Let me see. Hey, can you hear me? Hey, unmute. You muted. You're muted. Okay, there you
sorry.
go. That's all right.
For the sake of time, just because my phone is not cooperating well, I wanted to start just to make sure that nothing happens.
Yeah, go ahead.
If
Go
that would
ahead.
be okay.
Yeah.
So I talked to Cliff, and there was I've had some of the conversations about the N word. And so um, the N word the dialogue is very, very just diverse. And then, don't think that just because it's within the Black community, it's, totally
Say,
understood to just be, we're
right.
all in agreement.
I would agree with
And
that.
what I said was, okay, well, why don't we have a dialogue for our white mom members so that they can kind of see how
Right.
we think about it? And so there are some people who do believe that it's a term of endearment. They say,
Hmm.
well, we took something that's very traumatic and
Hmm.
we made something beautiful out of it. And
Right.
yeah, some people who say no, it's just not
I don't
productive
like
at
the
all.
word, period. Right.
Uh, I personally am of the persuasion that I believe that the entire word, all in of itself, is evil.
Hmm.
And you can kind of look at it from the perspective of, I remember talking to my brother and my sister-in-law about it, and they kind of agree with me, but they disagree at the same time because I said To me, it's just as bad if a black person says it as a white person says it. And
Okay.
of course, they took exception to that because they're like, okay, you're telling me that, if a white person says that to you, then a black person, you feel the same. And I said yes. And here's the reason why. I look at the history of things. I ask questions like, why was this word created? What's the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of it? Is there
Mm-hmm.
any are there multiple language uses of it? Are there, it originated here and it was originally meant for this, but then people twisted it to mean this. And when I look at that word, um, the origin of it is pure evil. I personally believe that the word is the most evil word in the English language. Uh,
Dude, what does it originate from? Do you know?
um,
Or
I
what is the origin?
I honestly can't tell you. I
Okay.
don't have I didn't, I don't have
I
the.
didn't mean to put you on the spot. Not
Oh,
you
that's
just
okay.
got me
That's okay.
you got me curious now.
Yeah. Um, I don't have the history of it or
That's
anything.
fine. I can Google it. I'll
Yeah.
Google it.
But the whole
But you
idea.
say you think it's the most that's interesting. So you think it's the most evil word?
I do. Hey, things are kind of about to. Things might go south. Yeah, they just did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Well, I could hear him. I think we just oh look, y'all, we just lost him right at the good part too. He may try to call back in, but I see we got a couple of people on right now. What I'll do instead of ending this, since we got people on, is if y'all have any questions right now, I'll go ahead and stand on. I'm gonna stay on, and I'll give you all my take on it. It's very interesting that David thinks it's the most evil word. Man, I want to hear why he thinks that. Um, so here's my take on it, y'all, and I know, yeah, that's I want to hear that, man. I want to hear that, Vince. Um, but I mean, he's very good about David is very good at explaining himself, as you all could tell. So I'm sure he has a pretty legitimate reason. So my take on it, um, and I thought it was interesting because I talked about how everybody's different, right? Everybody on this planet is different, and I thought it was interesting that he said when he discovers things or words like that, he goes and he looks at the origin and he see where it comes from and all of that, right? Um, and I think that's a good thing to do. Dave is also he's a music teacher, so I'm thinking like, I wonder, is that like a teacher thing? Is it just his personality? Because I don't do that, unless it's just I mean, it had to be something that really grabs me for me to go and Google it and see where the origin from it and is all and all of that. I guess I'm so what is it? I'm not immune, but the word doesn't really bother me as much because man, look, I got called one so much when I was little to where I think it's just out of repetitiveness. It just don't hurt anymore. I mean, I get more upset at the disrespect. You like you disrespecting me, not so much the word, but just you bold enough to disrespect me, knowing that I don't disrespect anybody. I come at everybody with love, just like I do y'all every day. What you see is what you get with me. Um, but so I'm one of the people who feel like it's okay to be used as a term of endearment. Uh, And that's just me. And I mean, I use it as a term of endearment. I don't use it as much as I used to, but I can, go around a group of black folks and drop it, be like, what up, man? And drop the N-word and it's cool. Whereas, um, if you're a white person and you do that, I always tell people you got a 50-50 chance. Why? Because everybody's different. I think one way, like I'm cool which using it as a term of endearment. If a black guy comes up to me and is like, "Hey, what's up, my nigga?" I ain't gonna trip. You know, but if a white person says it to me, I'm gonna look at him crazy. And I'm probably gonna say, can you not say that word around me nicely? I'm asking nicely, For me, all right, for me, uh guh. Yeah, I guess we need to distinguish between the R. I keep forgetting about the ER and okay. Um, so if I'm around the bros or whatever, I usually use the GA. I mean, let me tell you something, y'all. Y'all are not gonna hear a black person walking around saying nigger. All right. We just not gonna say it like that. It's gonna be nigga. All right. Um, but I don't say it near as much as I used to when I was a teenager. Absolutely, it was flying out my mouth because it's in the rap music, it's on, it's everywhere. Yeah, that's a whole nother different discussion there, man. Um, a whole nother discussion. See, you can go down the rabbit hole with this N word, y'all. And I hate I lost David. But so, the thing that the reason why I don't like for white people to say it around me is because of what I went through from kindergarten through sixth grade. All right. I went to a predominantly white school, was called a nigger every other day. And that I looked like Michael Jackson, I mean, just dude, they was just on me, right? And so when I hear a white person say that, it takes me back, to those days. Uh, so it's a little trauma there. And and honestly, I mean, at this point in time where we are now, it's just I don't think it's just good for a white person to say it, period. All right. Now, and I get it, man. I know to some people out there, some non-people of color, it may not make any sense whatsoever. But I think we did the best we could with just such a hateful and derogatory word, for those who still use it. Are there other words that can be used? Absolutely. I just think a lot of that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. He's back, y'all. See how that worked out?
I'm
Hey.
so sorry.
No, you're good, man. Look, we was all around here like, what the most evil word? What does he mean by that? We want to hear his explanation. Look at
Well,
this.
I'm back here. Here I am.
I'm curious as well.
All right.
All right, so you were saying before you left that you feel like this is very interesting that the N word is the most evil word,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
And the reason why I personally consider it the most evil word in the English language is because I ask myself, what was it created for? And so, was the word created for this? Was the word created for that? Who was it created by? And it was created by people who hate people who look like me,
Hmm.
and it was created for the purpose of making them believe that they are worse than the germs that are on the dirt, that's on the gum, that's on the bottom of somebody's shoe. And that's the reason why it was said to people who look like me and why it was said to my lineage. And that is the only reason why it was coined. That's the only reason why it was said to us, is because it was said to keep us under subjection. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
So that we'll
because
look at ourselves as less than that, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
And so, because of that, I cannot embrace that word. I cannot. And another reason why I personally think it's just as wrong for someone who's black to use it as someone who's white is because the way that I'm wired is whenever I feel something, I don't want anybody to feel that way. And
Hmm.
so let's just say that somebody, for teaching purposes, calls me stupid.
Right.
And that person who was stupid was an Asian person.
Hmm.
Well, I might be tempted if I don't have a renewed mind and if I'm younger, I might start to look at Asians a certain way because this Asian person called me stupid.
Right.
But because I know how that made me feel,
Right.
I know that I don't want for anybody to feel that way, and so I'm not going to use that word towards anybody because
Right.
um, I have a direct experience with that word, and so to me, um, for that reason, that's why I think it's just as wrong for someone who's black to use it. It's because of that's how it was created and that's what it was used for. Now, what I will say is this: I've had, as many of you all know, I'm a teacher. I'm a middle school teacher, and so I'm a middle school teacher in a public middle school. So, of course, we have a melting pot, and
Right.
so
Right.
we
Right.
love all the students, but the students come from different backgrounds, and
Right.
so you can't expect to reach one the same way that you reach the next. And so with
Absolutely.
that, you have kids that look differently, you have kids that are from different parts of the track, and so to for an example, if I heard a black person, a black student, I've actually had. Well, actually, I'll get into that different after this part. But let's say that I heard a black person, and I hear it all the time, a
Mhm.
black student say the N word. I would have to educate them on why it's not okay to say that word, or at the very least, why in my why in my personal classroom it's a curse word, and it is a curse word in my classroom.
Mhm.
Now, I've told the students I understand that you all use it. I don't agree with it, but
Right.
I mean, if I were to, but the only reason why I say that is because the reality is, if I wrote up everybody who used the N word, I wouldn't have a class. So I mean, I have to navigate around that in some way.
Oh, dude, trust me, bro. I know. I was
So,
telling them when you were
so that's
gone.
one thing. But one thing that I heard a teacher say years ago that I think is really good is that, okay, and I even told them I get that your parents probably use it to you. I've heard parents or students say my parents call me the N word, and so I'm like, all right, well now I'm fighting that as well. So I'm the minority in this situation. So, but I'm the authority as well. So what I have to do is I have to let them know, okay, I understand that you're used to a set of rules at home, but
Hmm.
now I have to get you accustomed to a different set of rules here.
Hmm.
Now, because I'm not your authority figure, because I'm not your parent, I cannot usurp, I cannot erase this set of rules that you're accustomed to at home, but I can introduce you to a set of rules in this classroom.
Right.
I can only control what you do and say in this classroom, and you have to honor that. Now, once you leave this classroom,
Do whatever.
my hands are off because again,
Right.
I'm not in charge of you, and
Right.
so
Right.
that's how I do that. So if and when a black student uses the word, most of the time, actually, believe it or not, they don't know what the word means. They're so used to hearing it, they're so used to it just being around them. They
Absolutely.
have no clue what it means. They just say inward. And so I actually have to kind of educate them on what it means. And I tell them the exact same thing that I just said as far as like the dirt and the gum and the germs and everything like that.
Right.
And I say, I believe that you're worth more than that. And so to me, I do not see that when I see you. And so I'm not going to call you that, and I'm not going to allow anybody else to call you
Right.
that. In the event that a white person says that, because I mean, you have to be aware of the reality of two things. Number one, you might have a racist student in your classroom. I mean, that's a reality. Number
Right.
two, you might have somebody who's white who is from a certain area where they're so in tune with everything that the community looks at them as their own. And so they kind of give them a pass. That
Right.
happens. And so as the teacher, I have to be aware of all of that. And so, but they're still held to the standard of in this classroom that is unacceptable. And so
Right.
in the event that a white student uses it, it's just as unacceptable, but the information that I give them has to be different because,
Right.
again, just from the cultural perspective, the reason why I don't accept it is because in the history, my ancestors were told by your ancestors this. And more than likely, they would be appalled. More than
Right.
likely, they would just be like, no, Mr. Van, that's not how I see you. That's not how I see you. And they'd be genuine, but they just didn't know. And
Right.
so that's just, again, the set of
information. So I believe that it's equally as unacceptable, but the information given as to why it's unacceptable is what's the word I'm looking for? It's different. It starts with a C. Um, it's custom. It's customized,
Mhm.
depending on who does use it. I
Right.
still believe that it's equally as painful.
Right.
And the last thing that I was going to share before you could kind of get, if you wanted to give your take on anything I said, is I will never forget this year. This happened where I had a seventh grade student, and he was kind of just he was goofing off before he came in the classroom, and his name is Keith. I'm not going to say his last name, but his
Right.
name is Keith, and he was just kind of goofing off. And he kind of he seems to be going through the whole thug stage where he's enamored with that life. And
Right.
I
I
mean,
went through it, dude. It's a phase.
he came from alternative school, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm committed to treating all kids equally and fairly and everything. So I didn't hold anything against him. He was acting like he was in the gang, and I actually had to tell him, Keith, do you bang? He's like, no, Mr. Van. I'm just like, well, you've got a rag. You're
Right.
you're waving it up in the middle of the class, and so
Right.
if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and I can only think that it's a duck. And so
Right.
he said that he didn't, and so I took his word for him for it.
Right.
But I told him, this was after I asked him that, but he was kind of goofing off, and I was like, all right, Keith, come on now, Keith, and he said, all right, my end. And that kind of it stung. It stung.
Did it
And
sting
so,
you?
and so I had to say and
So
here's
so 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 when he said that to you, it's like a white person saying it, right?
it's equal. Like it stings the exact same way
Okay.
that he said it to me.
Gotcha.
And so, of course, I felt like I had to intervene. And I
Right.
said, no. And here's where it gets good. Like, here's where it gets good. I was like, Keith, I don't answer to that because I'm not an in. And so I said that as he was kind of in the doorway coming in. And there was another student that heard me say that. And he said, Mr. Verin, yes, you are. And I was like, no, I'm a king. I'm a son of God. I'm a priest. I'm a prince. I'm all of that. I've got all this, and then more and more students started to chime in and said, "No, Mr. Verin, you are an in. That's who you are." And I was like, "No,
Whoa, for
I
real?
and what they were saying is that they were saying it from the perspective of no, Mr. Van, you don't understand.
Like
This is who you are. You are
yeah.
an N-word. That's just I'm an N-word. He's an N-word. You are an N-word. And I said, no, we have to have a conversation. But I am not an N-word, and we have to have an understanding about what does this word mean.
Right.
And so,
And see, this is a whole nother discussion right here, bro. It gets deeper because between the GA and the ER, you know what
well,
I'm saying?
I'm going to be honest because a lot of our white, family members may not know that people have been saying the GA and the ER, for years, and we've been having this conversation for decades. I personally don't think there's a difference. I don't think there's a difference. There
They
is,
all,
and
hey,
I
all
will
the
never
words mean the
forget.
same to
Like,
you.
like, like I thought, my heart sank during the Trayvon Martin trial, and the girl was on the stage, and she was talking about, Trayvon called him, that white cracker, and then, he said something about the N word, and then she was like, no, there's a difference between the GA and the ER. And I was
You
like this
cringed.
because I was like, oh my goodness, she said that on national television. So that's number one. Then number two, the thing that really got me going was, oh my gosh, they are talking about this on the news, and now they are having dialogues about is the ER versus the
ER
A,
and
and I'm like, we are just going down as a society. This is just like I cannot believe that they're actually having dialogue on
yeah.
is this and I was just like, oh my goodness, I am so sad right now.
Right, right.
So, you
I
know,
mean, I think what you're doing is great. And I mean, I think you should continue to do that. You know, it's all about education
right.
and environment because when I use it a lot, and I still use it, but not near as much. Um, it came from my environment. You know, when I was a teenager, man, you know, I was using it a lot. That was the thing to do. But as I become older, you know, I use it less. But you know, and I told the viewers when you went away that if I go to the hood or something, and somebody come up and say, "Hey, what's up, my nigga?" You know, like that in an endearing way, you know, I don't have an issue with it. But you know, I got called that word every other day when I was younger. You know, from kindergarten through sixth grade. So the sting on it doesn't affect me as much because I literally got called it so much that the pain or whatever it numbed it was going, you know, it I just end up ignoring them. But at the same time, the reason that I don't like for white people to say it to me now is because and for me, it's not so much the word as it is the intent. Like, are you being disrespectful to me or are you being loving to me? You know, that's what I'm putting the emphasis on. Um, I would love for the word to go away, man, but I'm realistic and I know that is probably never going to happen, you know, because like you said, instead of going away from it, we getting deeper into the GA and the ER and, you know, maybe even some more pronunciations on down the line. But another reason why for me now, I'm only talking about me, I use it as a tool because you know this working with kids, and I don't call the kids that,
I
right?
think I know where you're going.
Yeah, but you have to have the lingo with some of these people in order to shatter that wall. All right. If you don't get down dirty in the trenches and be dropping the N word, and I know, like, you know, being a Christ follower, it's not what you're supposed to do, but I've just found it effective to where when I can just meet them halfway, I ain't got to go all the way thug, but I can just bring a little thug out a little bit just to meet them halfway, then I can reach them better. You know, it's like a trust thing. I mean, you see how it's so ingrained in your students, but we have to get them away from that mindset that is okay to say. But how long is that going to take? You know, but we have to start. So I definitely see even though we're look like we're different on this,
Right.
dude, I think we're both doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
And the interesting thing is, I was going to say something else, but just on to your point, um, I actually, and I'm part of this men's group with our church, and you know we talk about certain things a lot. And
Yeah.
I told them that I have to. I think it's all about knowing where your grace is, and I think it's all about knowing about just what your personal lines are. Because there
Right.
was a time, now I didn't, you know, use the N word or anything like that, but there was a time where I kind of felt like I was actually crossing my own borders to try to, you know, kind of like, you know what, let me do this, and I found myself losing myself. And so what I've done is I've, you know, because I'm more of the, you know, dignified, not like tooty snooty, whatever. But it's like, you know,
Right. Right. Right.
that's kind of that's where I think that's where my sweet spot is. And so what I
Right.
do is I stay within that. I own it, I embrace it, but I still do what I do in ways that they still kind of, you know, kind of get it. Like, you know,
And it works.
yeah, like I mean, like I thought that you were going to where it's like, you know, if you're kind of upset with somebody, you say N word, you know, such and such, just to kind
Yeah.
of, you know,
Yeah.
kind of get their attention.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't do that, but you know, sometimes, you know, just that young man, or
Yeah.
you know, or even though, you know, even sometimes we're just like, boy, do this,
Yeah. Right.
and it's not meant just to kind of like, you know, the way that I explain it to some of my students is sometimes, like, you know, all love is manifested in different ways. Some love is, let me hug you, I love you, and then
Right.
but some people don't respond to that. Some people are like, hey, come on, you know I love you, but you
Right.
know, come on. And then you have those students where it's just like you shake it and you're like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. I
and,
need you to get
they
it.
still
Yeah.
know that it's done with love. And
Right.
so
Right.
it's just like that, all those different approaches.
Right.
I guess just within the scope of where my grace lies. That's just kind of what I do. Uh, but another thing that I was thinking about just with the N word that I think about a lot is, the reason why I personally and again, I think it's understood that we're not trying to debate or we're not trying to convince
Yeah.
one another, but
Right.
just sharing where our takes are.
Right.
Another reason why I personally don't embrace it is because I think that the lines are too blurred, and so because you're going to be having when you say, all right, nobody uses it, then
Mhm.
everybody's clear. You know, it's just
Right.
like
That's true.
we're not doing this. And if a
Yeah.
black person says it, you get called out. If a white person
Right.
says it, you definitely get called out. All that other stuff.
I'm with you on that,
Whereas
bro.
with um, with the okay, well, we can say it, but you can't. Then the lines are very blurred. The waters are
But
very
it turns
muddy
gray.
because.
It's a
And
gray
then
area.
one
Yeah.
thing that I was thinking about this morning is, I mean, how when it comes to like where's the line? Okay, well, black people can say it, but white people. Now, God forbid this ever happened, but I sometimes I just kind of think of situations. So the question that I would ask is, okay, so let's just say that you have somebody with a child who's black, and
Mm-hmm.
then somebody else who's black comes on and calls the child the N word.
Mm-hmm.
Is that acceptable or is that not acceptable? To me, absolutely not.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
fact,
yeah,
you
that's
know
a
that
great
I'm the
point,
most
man.
peaceful
It's
person,
yeah.
but hands would be not thrown, but the temptation would be there.
Right, right, right.
So I mean, and so with me personally, just with my makeup, I'm a thinker, and so the way that I think is the fact that I have a twinge in those kind of situations means I know it's wrong.
Right.
So I have to acknowledge that, okay, across the board, I believe it to be wrong. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I just don't, I can't with a clear conscience form my mouth to say it. And so,
I totally see where you're coming from, bro. And yes, in an ideal world, yeah, dude, just take it away. So that way it's no gray areas. But yeah, you're right, dude. It's a lot of gray. And as long as it's a lot of gray, it's gonna be a lot of confusion. You know
right.
what I'm saying? I cannot stand gray areas, dude. In the corporate world, nowhere. That's why I do boundaries so much, so that everybody is clear and concise on all fronts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, I mean, man, first of all, I know that's a huge thing to have to do when you're in a school and the word is constantly being dropped. That's constantly opportunities popping up that you have to take to educate.
Hmm.
You know, so it's time. So from what I'm hearing, it can be time consuming. You know what I'm saying? But these are good things now.
Right.
Um, and it's just you're gonna have a lot of opportunities where you're gonna have to educate those guys. Because I think if you do continue to educate them on like it's filth at the bottom of gum on your shoe, if you continue to use that analogy and paint that picture, dude, I think that is the beginning of getting rid of the word.
Well, the reality is this. I especially think that this is the case in public schools, even though I think that you should do it in any school. But in public schools where you have just all these different things, you can't
Yeah,
really. Many of the students are accustomed to disorder, and
right.
so
Yeah.
the name of the game is creating a space of order already. That's where the majority um, of your energy goes. And I remember, I'll never forget when I was at Cornerstone, I I was having an evaluation, and I told my principal, I feel like I finally get it. You know, here the students don't look at me as a teacher; they look at me as a parent.
Hmm.
And ever since then, from that moment on, I feel like I've been having much more effortless success in the predominantly black public school. That's how I approach it at Huffman. Is right now I'm not really thinking I'm teaching, even though I am. I'm kind of parenting because it's so much of the interactions of what I shared as far as just teaching them about how things work and what things are and everything. And you just so happen to kind of touch your lesson plan. And so it's not where you're, just not teaching at all or things like that. But
Hmm.
um, it's about just kind of reaching the students where they are. And it's about being aware of what they're looking for and what they need. And so when you understand that, then you're really just you really are just parenting all day, and you're giving them the whys. Like I used to look at how a lot of times they would do the wrong thing until you told them to stop. Like and that was foreign to me because I was just like, you just know that you don't do that.
Right, right, right.
Whereas with them, they expect me to do it because they're looking at me as the parent. And if they don't, they're like, oh, it must be okay. And that's how their mind
And so they
really
just
is
keep
kind of
doing it.
geared at the moment. And so that's
Wow.
where I was just like, they actually are expecting me to say this. They're expecting me to do this, and they're expecting me to do this and that. And so that's when I really kind of started to just really look for all of those opportunities to sow all those seeds, and just because again, that's kind of just where they are.
Right. Well, man, look, I mean, dude, I have a big, I have mad respect for y'all teachers. These last 3 years for teachers, man. I mean, some of the stuff I heard this year just on the radio and with the teacher strike and all of that. Jeez, dude. I mean, it truly, you truly have to like love kids like crazy, man, to be a teacher. I mean, I love kids, but I couldn't be a teacher. I just don't have the patience. I'm being honest. That's why I'm in IT, you know. uh, but yeah, man, we appreciate y'all teachers, man. And then, I do, even though we're uh different on the subject, I clearly see that we each have a role, you know what I'm saying, in our responsibility here, helping other kids. We just doing it in different ways. I love your approach, being an educator and actually educating them. Whereas me, I'm middle class, man, but I don't know why. Like, I can just really adapt to like street life and the hood and stuff like that. So I'm drawn to that, you know. But that's my gift and that's your gift, right? I got the gift where I can get in the trenches, meet them halfway without going too far crazy. And just love on them, man, because that's the thing, man. I don't need to hit them with no scriptures or nothing all the time. Sometimes I can just hug them. Sometimes I can just say, hey, I believe in you, or I love you. You know what I'm saying? And that's all it takes for them to reconnect uh back to, God and the higher power, because they haven't felt love in so long. And, just being lied to from, fake Christians about, not understanding God's true love. And so, they just do. Can you imagine? I mean, they just lost, because nobody's giving them any real fruit. So
I agree.
yeah, that's why I do it, man. Keep doing what you're doing, though, bro. And I really do pray, man, seriously, one day the word will go away. And I think what you're doing, the more we educate, the more you let them know what it stands for, I think it can happen.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be 100% honest. This side of heaven, I don't think it's going away. I don't, especially just because you have just the myriad of different experiences. Because you have
Yeah.
people like me, like my parents, like in my house, we did not say it. Like I mean,
Mm.
like in my house, like I would have gotten skinned if I said it at home.
Really? See?
And I really actually appreciate that. Like I honestly, I've heard my brother say it. Like my brother is a little bit more edgy than than I am, but I can't really think of so many times where I've heard my parents say it. To be honest, I've never heard my grandparents say it. Oh, that's another thing. Could I kind of share another take that I have?
Yeah.
Um, I'm very lineage minded, and I've always just had just a high, deep respect for generations before us.
Yeah, me too.
And to this day, the next to Jesus, the most heroic man that I've ever had in my life has been my grandfather on my mom's side.
Mm.
And very close, my grandmother, they were my biggest fans. They're just like, just perfect example of godliness, perfect
Right.
example of just, family and everything.
Right.
And my grandfather never raised his voice. My grandmother never raised her voice. Very dignified, very just high morals. And I would just be appalled at the idea of, number one, them using the word,
Right.
or someone calling them that word.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think about the generations who, who stood for us, who were dignified in the midst of all of that, who
Mm.
held to their morals and held to their standards so that we could, be where we are right now.
Mm.
And just, I take pride in that. I take pride in the fact that our lineage is dignified, and our lineage is just very. We know how to hold our head high in the
Mm.
midst of anything. And while we were being called that, and while we were just being going through all of that, with just the, from the University of Alabama thing with the first student, just to the lynchings, to the hoses and everything,
Mm.
we kept our dignity, and we held our head high. I actually don't mind using the word Negro, because to me that's a very dignified word in relation to it. But again, I just, when I look back at the generations who paved the way for us, and I'm looking specifically of like just the Birmingham civil rights, not necessarily. I don't really connect with the militant groups, but just with the side, I think which ones that I'm thinking about.
Mm.
I don't see them using that word,
Right.
and I don't see them responding to that word, and I don't see them embracing that word. And so that's just kind of really the side that I identify with. And
Mm.
to me, just a lot of things that I do and a lot of things I say or refrain from saying is out of thankfulness for what they did for me. Like one of the reasons why I just still work so hard, in addition to wanting to just exemplify the kingdom and to bring the kingdom to the earth, is because I'm thinking about, I've heard a lot of people say, I don't feel like practicing, I don't do this, and I'm too tired. And I'm just like, my ancestors would have loved to be able to practice. My ancestors would have loved to be able to get a master's degree in music if they wanted to. And
Mm.
a lot of them couldn't, because they were too busy fighting for the next generation, and they were too
Right.
busy being told that they can't do that because they're black. And now I'm
Right.
in the position to where I can, and I should be doing everything that I can do to say thank you to that generation. And I even remember I was just driving one time, and I just saw this barber that was outside. He was kind of an older gentleman, and I just stopped and I said, I just want to thank you for everything that you did for my generation so that I could be everything. And it looked like, I hit him with a boulder. Like he
Oh, I
almost just
bet he
like,
probably ain't never
he,
heard
and,
that.
and, and he was like, come here, come here. And like, he was just like, come here. And he told me to go into the barber shop, and he said, tell them what you just told me. And I just said, I just wanted to say thank you for everything that your generation did for mine, so that we can be able to do what we're doing right now. And it just like, he was like, you can come in here anytime you want,
Oh,
you know.
dude. I
So
mean, because that went straight to his heart, man.
right,
I mean, he probably ain't never heard that before, man.
yeah,
And I mean, that was awesome that you told him that, because I mean, I've always been like that too, man. I love my elders, and I just always ask like a thousand questions, bro. I wanted to know how it was like back then. What did they go through? I mean, I would just sit with my grandma and just, how was this? What did they do? And
I did the
man,
exact same thing. I did the exact
yeah,
like I was
I
just
just wanted
listening to my
all that
grandparents
wisdom,
talk.
man. I was just a wisdom sponge, just give it all to me. And I'm glad I did, man, because she's, deceased now. And, dude, I mean, she has some of the most amazing stories, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just listening to her, her mom was Native American. I mean, it's like real history, bro. You know what I'm saying? Civil rights era, racism, all that stuff. So, and honestly, really wasn't that long ago. If you just really look at it in terms of time, it really was not that long ago, man. So we definitely should be appreciative for where we are. Do we still have a lot of work to do? Hell yes, a lot. But I'm all about celebrating the little wins. Everything that's going on right now are little wins. You know, the people being convicted for George Floyd and Ahmaud, those are little wins. You know, well, actually, those are big wins, but you know what I'm saying. So hopefully we can keep the momentum going. Because I mean, my mentality on it, David, is like we're here now. You know, like either you know, all the racist people out there, either you suck it up and figure out how to live with us, or just stay out my way. You know, but I don't like to get attitude, but that's where I am with it now. Like you're not gonna put me through what I've been through anymore. You know what
Well,
I'm
and
saying?
my take on it has always been because I never really lost sleep over it, to be honest, because
Right.
like even when I was young, I think the last time that I really just kind of got bent out of shape with it was either middle school or late or early high school. Because like especially in college, it's just undergrad. I just kind of understood. Are there people who don't like me because of the way that I look? Yes. What's that got to do with me?
None.
I mean, what's that got? Absolutely nothing. I mean, that's not going to stop me. You
Right.
know, I'm going where I'm going.
Right.
You know, I mean, some people don't like this part, but I'm still committed to walking love of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, but you're not liking me is not going to stop me. I mean, if
Nope.
you think that I'm going to lose a wink of sleep because you don't like me because of this, uh, I would say I'm sorry, but that would be a lie.
Exactly, bro.
I
I
mean
mean, you
that's
can't be
not
stopped. I
that
tell
that
myself
that's
every morning I cannot be stopped, and I mean that both physically and any other kind of way. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like I cannot be stopped. I know who I am. I know who my father is. I'm a king. You hear me say that all the time. I reference myself as a king in everything. They call me a king in this household. You know, I call this house a castle. That's how real I am with it, you know, because when I say that to myself throughout the day, man, I mean, dude, when you get your mind to believe in that, I'm telling you, you already know this. Nothing can stop you, bro.
Absolutely not.
Well, only, yeah, one thing, you know,
Yeah,
we can
but
stop ourselves.
you've already gotten out of your own way, so you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, and it's not gonna be smooth sailing, man. But you know, I've learned to love the journey, bro. The good, the bad, the ugly. I want it all. You know, because every wilderness that I come out of, I'm always better.
Yeah,
You know, and I learn from it, and you know, it's a beautiful thing in the end. You know, when you're going through it, it's not so beautiful, but you know, that's the whole faith test, right?
yeah. And then another thing. When you're going through it, if you focus actually not on what you're going through, but just the ends and what you know is going to be there, then you know it's actually not as bad. You know,
It's
so
really not, man. It's all about what you are focusing on.
mhm.
It's all about that. Are you looking at your circumstances? Are you looking at your environment? Or are you looking at where you want to go? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And if it's one thing I have learned that is key, is where are you looking? You know what I'm saying? That's for somebody out there. Where are you looking? I didn't even really want to say that. That just came out of my spirit.
there you go.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hear it.
Yeah. Well, we coming up on we got 5 minutes left, man. You know, these things go by quick. I'm glad you was able to come back on
I'm
because
glad
you
you
left
stayed.
us with a cliffhanger, man. We was like, what
Well,
did he say? I want
I was on my phone, and this is the one time at like this has never happened like within like the past year or two or whatever. And I guess the thing is that I use my phone during work for school all the time, like to do grades, to do attendance, to
Oh,
do
so it was dying.
well, it was, and then but the thing is, I had a charger, and for whatever reason, my charger was acting up, and
Oh,
so
for real.
and so I was trying to make it work, and then I was like, all right, let's see if I can make it work, and then I was like, oh my gosh, it just went out, and then I have a laptop, and so I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna get on the laptop, and so that's
Hey man, the thing is, I love to talk, so I was like, he'll be. Because I told him, I said, I know David, man. He's very thorough. I said, I'm gonna just hang out and answer questions until he comes back. So,
okay.
man, look, hey, this has been awesome, man. It really has.
Nice.
I love, even if I don't agree with it, man, I just love listening to other people's stories and what they believe in. It's just regardless of who the person is, even if they're atheist, man. In my mind, like God made them and they're awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I don't know. I can't explain it. The more I'm in this walk, man, I just
You don't need to explain it.
yeah, I just see how
When you
crazy it
have the
is.
love of God for people,
Yeah,
then
it's
you
just
know.
crazy not to love somebody. I mean, how I feel now, I just don't see how people don't love people. You know what I'm saying? But I do know why. It's a lot of things. They don't like themselves. They don't love themselves. It's all kind. It's so many layers, bro.
Well,
But
and here's what because I used to be discouraged because of the same thing where I didn't understand certain things, which is like I don't know why do people so mean to other people, everything else like that. And here's what I have to just remind myself, and I say this to you: the love of God is shed abroad in your heart.
yeah,
So you have supernatural, uncommon love.
right.
So again, that's the reason why we're like, how can you not do that? Because again, when the love of God is shed abroad in your heart, you just have an uncommon supernatural love.
So a lot of people not go understand that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I got
Exactly.
you. That makes perfect sense too. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, David, bro, I love you, man. I
Love you more.
appreciate you. Hey, we can always chop it up again. If you ever want to talk about anything, man, just go on the calendar, schedule some, and we'll make it happen.
My
And
pleasure.
and look, man, I do. You got a lot of fans in BL. I know I told you this before, man, but you got some fans in BL who love uh just your demeanor and how you always reference Christ.
I appreciate that for two
No, I'm
reasons.
serious, dude. I mean, they've told me that.
No,
They've
number
told me.
one, I appreciate that because I hate the fact that I'm not on as much as I used to, just because during the pandemic, we were, I was staying home. I had
Yeah,
a,
we ain't had nothing else to do
yeah, it was
but
like,
pandemic,
I had
man.
I was literally living off of my savings like very comfortably, and so
Right.
then
Right.
things kind of dried. I was like, all right, it's time to get back out there, and
Yeah,
so
yeah. I
so
mean, it's
now.
understandable, man. We all kind of getting back out there now, and probably a lot of us aren't in BL like we used to. But the beautiful part is it's not going anywhere. So,
Yeah,
it's gonna always be there. It's gonna always be a safe place. So,
nice.
all right, bro. Look, you be safe, man. I love you. You stay up, all right.
All right, you
Get
too.
you some good rest tonight. Sound like you had a long day.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, bye.
All right, bro.